Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing Schitt's Creek, created by Eugene Levy and Dan Levy. The series aired on CBC television from January 13th, 2015 to April 7th, 2020. It ran for 6 seasons with a total of 80 episodes, and it aired here in the US on Pop TV. This is such an absolutely wonderful show, a series I truly feel everyone should watch, and it really did grow its fan base over the years through word of mouth. Everyone who watches this show has nothing but great things to say about it. So I myself first watched it last year, quickly binged all 5 seasons that were available. I was in love with it right from the start, already just on board with the premise, already finding the characters really interesting, and then slowly but surely as we get to know them more and more, just falling more in love with these characters. I absolutely love strong character-driven writing, and I really truly love that this show has humor, but more importantly, heart to it. That these characters just feel so believable, and with their character growth throughout each season. I just love the Rose family, and what makes it so enjoyable to watch are the characters. And when they have no more money, all they have is each other. So it's just a beautiful thing, just getting to see these characters grow and prosper, and through all of this hardship, that at the end of the day, they have each other, and that what's more important than money, love. And Dan Levy has said about this show that besides being a comedy, at the heart of this show, the core of it is that it's a celebration of love in all its forms, whether that's familial love, romantic love, friendship. So it's a beautiful thing. And I really do absolutely adore the relationships on this show. The relationships between the family members, the friendships. And it's so hilarious that with the premise, we're thrown into it right away with the people collecting all of their valuables and them all just losing it. But then we find out that the one asset they still have was the town of Schitt's Creek, that the father bought for his son as a joke. That's just so fantastic. So, of course, let's break down the Rose family. We have Johnny Rose, the patriarch, played by Eugene Levy. So going into the show, that was really all I knew about it. I knew, Eugene Levy's in that show. That's right. And then learning about, he created that with his son. That's so cool. So then his wife, Moira Rose, played by Catherine O'Hara. So those two alone already, that's such star power. That's so awesome. And they've worked on other projects together as well. And then their son, David Rose, played by Eugene Levy's actual son, Daniel Levy. So these two co-created the show. Well, really, Dan Levy's the one who approached his father with the idea, well, what if we do a show where a wealthy family loses all their money, that they have to reestablish themselves, and it becomes the importance of love. If you don't have any valuables, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that you have one another. So it works so well. And again, what is at the core of it, wonderfully written characters. And of course, the daughter, Alexis Rose, played by Annie Murphy. I do love the entire Rose family. I would say Alexis's, her character arc, that's my favorite, personally. And again, I love the relationships on this show. I think my favorite, I would just have to say, is between David and Alexis, that sibling relationship, because they do such a good job of making it feel so realistic in the sense that siblings know how to push one another's buttons so well, but it doesn't, no matter how much you can get on each other's nerves, you're still family, you still love each other. So that's just so sweet, and I just adore their relationship. But it's just great, again, with character growth, how in the pilot, our cup runneth over. When they're thrown into this, they have to move, they're just in Schitt's Creek, unpacking all their stuff at the motel, and with David and Alexis, first off, they're just that tension when they're saying, shut up, no, you shut up. And then when they're going back and forth, you know what, David, you get murdered first. When she just doesn't want, when he wants the bed away from the door, and it's just ridiculous. But then as that relationship grows throughout the show, it's fantastic. It's beautiful writing. Honestly, I adore the writing on the show. And Dan Levy, he was the showrunner starting with season 3. So from season 3 onward, he was the showrunner of the show. So really, it was always his vision for each of these characters and where each one would end up by the end of the series. So what is really great is that they also take the overused idea of a small rundown town and how, oh, are these people going to be kind of trashy or backwards thinking or ignorant or anything like that? But they don't do any of that whatsoever. Instead, we have these people that are proud to live in their town of Schitt's Creek, that they may not be this really upscale place, but they are really warm, kind people who are just accepting of the Roses and very accommodating, willing to help any way they can. So all of the townspeople throughout the show, too, that's what's fantastic, too, how they were really all established in this first season, meaning all of the characters, they were just so well established with their backstories and things like that, because with other shows, more often than not, it takes a while sometimes for them to really find the characters. With this show, they just felt like real people right off the bat with these, in particular the Roses, with all of their backstories. Alexis being this party girl and well-traveled, just all of her crazy dating life. And Moira Rose, how she is a soap opera actress. She was on Sunrise Bay on that show. And then Johnny Rose was the owner of Rose Video. So then when the business partner screwed them over, then they lost all their money. But at the beginning, when they're all just can't wait to get out of there, they feel it's just a bump in the road for them that they can't wait to leave. But then, slowly but surely, they come to really like the town, love the people in the town. So, for instance, Roland Schitt, the mayor of the town, played by Chris Elliott, and he is actually the only American cast member. Everyone else is Canadian on the cast, so that's really cool. But how he's already feeling so, like he knows them so well, like I was like, oh yeah, no problem, Johnny, like already kind of super imposing himself, but then when they just trying to get him to leave, that's just so funny though. And then of course his wife Jocelyn Schitt, played by Jen Robertson, and her too, she's just always so nice, and they're such a nice couple, the two of them, and again, so giving and truly warm people. And then there's also Twyla Sands, played by Eugene Levy's daughter, Sarah Levy, so Dan Levy's sister. And even with her backstory too, when she just reveals things about like, oh, my mom's former boyfriend, like all this stuff, her ex-boyfriend, like she's kind of has a sad history for her. But then she's always so bubbly and kind and hardworking. And then also there's Bob, owner of Bob's Garage, Bob Curie, played by John Hemphill. Him too, always just smiling and everything. And then I love, personally, one of my favorites of the recurring townspeople, I love Ray Butani, played by Rizwan Manji. He's just like the one town realtor when Johnny goes to him wanting to get the town back on the market so he can sell the town. And then the whole thing with the sign and how it looks so inappropriate. It's like, oh, don't worry, it's his sister. It just looks so, obviously that sign. Oh my gosh. But Ray, too, he's just always in a good mood. So these people, it's just great how the Roses, thinking that they are better than these people, but really these people are so sweet, and that the Roses really grow from learning about just this new way of life for them, having no money, so really just making do with what they have. So with all of their essentials, of course Moira, with that wall of wigs, her precious wigs, so throughout the show with all her different wigs, Moira is just on another level. With the fashion in the show is fantastic, but Moira in particular, with all of her outfits, it's just great. And then, of course, Stevie Budd, played by Emily Hampshire, and Stevie being the motel clerk at the Schitt's Creek Motel. And how she really, throughout the show, becomes kind of an honorary member of the Rose family. That's another favorite relationship of mine, her relationship with David, their friendship. It's just so honest because they are so similar to one another, both being sarcastic and kind of, with Stevie too, she's just kind of treading water in a sense, that she's just there because that's just her job and this was her family business, and really trying to figure out what she wants out of life. So she's just kind of making do, but then she's just slowly growing fond of David throughout the first season. And then Alexis as well, with the first season in particular, with that love triangle between Mutt Schitt, played by Tim Rosen, who is Jocelyn and Roland's son, and Ted Mullins, played by Dustin Milligan, him being the vet in town. So, of course, with that, how he's like the bad boy, he's just very, very good looking, but then at the time he's dating Twyla, and then when they eventually get together, but first said she was dating Ted, and she thinks Ted is too nice, and there's all that happening. By the end of the season, when they get engaged, and then when they think they're gonna leave, and then she's like, oh yes, if I wasn't leaving, it's like, so is that a no? Yes. Like, yeah. Aw, poor Ted. That whole time she had always been kind of lusting after Mutt. When she just kisses him in the second episode, really, when they go to that tailgating party. And it's just great. She's like, oh yeah, I love that journey for me. And then also in season 1, when David and Stevie first hooked up, because as David says, they're just both desperate and lonely. And then there's that great conversation that people always talk about with this show, with people who have come out, using that conversation that David has with Stevie, using the metaphor with the wine, when David says, I like the wine and not the label. Does that make sense? And then we learn when Johnny's talking to Roland, when he says that his son is pansexual, so just being open with his sexuality. And David kind of making do, and Alexis, because then she's falling for Mutt, and then Johnny trying to really, in season 1, when he's trying to sell the town, then when they think they're going to be getting out, but that doesn't work out in the season 1 finale, and then when Stevie confesses her feelings to David, and then he just leaves. But with Moira, how she's really having the hardest time adjusting, but that whole episode when she's trying to do that one commercial with the fruit wine, and then she's freaking out because she wants to reestablish herself as an actress, but then she just gets drunk, and then the whole thing with that commercial, or whatever it is, like promoting the wine, like, hi, I'm Moira Rose. Oh, I can't with the accent. The accent too, that alone. I read about that, and she had said, Catherine O'Hara saying, oh, the whole point of the accent is that it's kind of her, since Moira Rose being well-traveled, it's kind of linguistic mementos, or linguistic souvenirs. It's a bit of a British, bit of an old-timey Hollywood Katharine Hepburn type of an accent. So it's not really any one distinguishable accent. It's just so great, though. So funny. On a side note, I love when she says bebe anytime. Not baby, but oh, bebe. That's so funny. Oh my goodness. With season 2, when Moira joins the Jazzy Gals, and then she joins town council later on. So really all of them really getting more involved with the town. Then we see more success with David when he has his first job at the blouse barn. And then when they finally get some money, and then we're like, oh, well, we could buy this, we could buy that. And then he's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but shouldn't we save this? Like, that's so great. And then he's like, well, we can get some manicures. Oh, yay. This is cute. So when they're slowly but surely getting back on their feet, reestablishing themselves, because really how we get only glimpses of their past life and how they really were never together. So this is the first time when they're really with each other every single day, since they're in those adjoining rooms at the motel. So with all of them just being together way more often than they ever used to be. And there's so many great things in this show. For instance, something I think that, like, for me personally, that I think is an absolutely invaluable lesson, to the point where I actually wrote about it in a blog post called Nobody Cares. In the episode in season 3, when David has to take his driving test, that's the episode, driving test. So when they're in the car, and when Alexis when he's just freaking out about it, basically, and she's saying, oh my God, David, nobody cares. And he's saying, what are you talking about? I care, the instructor cares. And she's saying how if you didn't worry so much, you wouldn't be failing all the time. And he's saying, thank you, Alexis. But then when she says, trust me, people aren't thinking about you the way that you're thinking about you. So it's a matter of not being so self-conscious, not being so in your head, not worrying so much what others think. So that's just a really great lesson. That's what I love about comedy, when TV shows where, yes, they make you laugh, yes, it's just enjoyable to watch. This show's so bingeable. It's such a blast to watch this show. I mean, I adore this show, obviously. But I love things like that, where every once in a while there are these beautiful little life lessons that you can take away from it. So that's just a really wonderful thing. So that's just one thing in particular that really just stands out to me that I really like. And then also with Alexis, after the whole thing with Mutt falls through, when just they realize they aren't right for each other. And I have to say, she, as in Annie Murphy, is so good at breakup scenes. My goodness, so emotional. But that breakup with Mutt, how when she's saying, how she talks too much, he doesn't talk enough for her. And then she's saying, I'm willing to kind of change and listen more. And then he's just saying, are you really? And then they just fall silent then, both realizing that they're not the right people for each other. And just, everything you're communicating non-verbally. And it's just a really great scene, too, when it's over. And then she's saying afterwards to David that we were lusting after each other so long. And then we realized that once that was gone, we're not the people we thought we were. And it's just so sweet then, too, then she's saying, I think I need a hug right now. And then he's like, okay, he gives her a hug. That's such a sweet moment. Because, again, with these siblings, that they still always have each other's backs. So even that, too, like in that other episode when she gave that advice to David, then he got his license. So every once in a while with her, pearls of wisdom, Alexis. So that's just really great. So basically just throughout this, seeing her grow, because in that relationship with Mutt, then when she says that, I let him see me, like I let him know me, get to know me, and just no one ever really knew me before, like he changed me. So that's a great thing. And again, then with Moira, when she's on the town council and just seeing how she thrives in that role, and even with the Jazzicals, how first she thought it was just some silly thing, and then she sees that they're actually talented, and then she just kind of botches her audition, because even though she's this well-trained actress, but then she gets on it anyway. Same with the town council, when first Johnny was going to run, but then she wanted to run, and then Jocelyn too, but then she drops out. So that's great too. So then with the town council, it's Moira, Bob, Roland, and Ronnie. I didn't mention Ronnie. She's so great too, played by Karen Robinson. She's just always great because like the sarcasm to her, but then she does have that every once in a while, just like kind of showing to that deep down she cares. She really like loves the roses more than she lets on. It's great. But then with Alexis, then when she gets a job working for Ted at the vet clinic as his secretary, and then she's just slowly but surely really falling in love with him. So then also just seeing that growth with her, how it's just like more of a deeper connection, because at first when they had first dated, her and Ted, and she didn't really just see him, like didn't really give him a real chance because she thought he was too nice and not what she usually dates and everything. But then also, so then professionally too for her, then when she decides she wants to leave the job and just grow more, she has to go back to high school. So then when Jocelyn being the high school teacher, since she's back in high school, then afterwards when she graduates and she starts her own PR business, when she goes to college. So just seeing that growth for her professionally. And it's a beautiful thing too, though, with Alexis and Ted. Because then we see, of course, with David, with his real professional growth as well. Because throughout his whole life, then when he realizes his parents had really done everything for him with his gallery and everything, and that they basically just paid for everything, so he never really had any success on his own. So then when he decides that he wants to start his own general store, and then of course that's when he meets the love of his life, Patrick Brewer, played by Noah Reid. And it's so great when rewatching the show, and then just that first scene when they first meet, the two of them, like already that spark, and how Patrick's just kind of teasing David, not knowing his store, and like not knowing what he wants to do for the general store. And then when David's kind of making a fool of himself when he calls him, he's saying ciao. I said ciao to that person. Like, oh my gosh, so cute. Patrick and David have such a beautiful relationship, seeing that grow throughout each season. And Patrick truly is just the ideal partner. He is generous and sweet and patient. So it's great how they start off as business partners, but then there's that spark, there's that chemistry between them. And then when they go on their first date, and that's a great episode too, because that's when Alexis graduates. And it's so beautiful at the high school graduation, when Ted shows up for her, and then she's kind of was hinting that she wanted the family to come, in particular Moira to come, but then Moira was saying, oh, I'm sorry, dear, I had the Jazzicals engagement. But then when she liked to sing, and then she surprises Alexis singing to her, and that's such a sweet thing. That makes me tear up. It's so cute. And then that same night when it's David's birthday, and then he ends up going on a date with Patrick. He didn't realize it was a date. And then Patrick had saved the receipt from their first sale at their general store, Rose Apothecary, So great. That store seems awesome, by the way. Like, I wish that was a real store. All the products they sell, the skincare and the stuff for around the house and the wine and cheese, like so many great products that they have, and just self-care and moisturizers and everything. But then when they are in the car and then when they have their first kiss, like that's just like a wonderful moment. It's one of those things where, it's a forever kiss, that it's just, they're meant to be. So it's just so sweet. Oh my goodness. I love also, again, going back to Alexis and David, with David having her back, and then when they go to that woman, Heather, who at the time was dating Ted, and David's trying to get in business with her to sell her products at his store, and then when he sees how Alexis is around them, and then afterwards when he's saying, "You're in love with him, aren't you?" And she says, "Yes, yeah, I am." And then when he talks to Ted in the season 4 finale, when she's doing the singles week thing, when she's really like establishing herself with her own business, doing everything on her own with this PR business of hers. And then when he's talking to Ted and he's saying, telling him everything, your name has come up every single day for the past 6 months and she's changed because of you. Well, not totally changed, but he's saying all that. Then when he says, like, if you want her, you can go get her. She definitely is in love with you. Then when he goes back to Patrick and he tells him he's in love with him, it's just so sweet when Patrick had said he loves him, and then when David says he loves him, it's just so cute. Oh my goodness, those two are just so compatible. Then when Alexis and Ted get back together, which then in hindsight, knowing how it ends up, it's a little bittersweet, but it's still such a sweet moment though, when they kiss at that singles week event. Also, I love another emotional moment in the season 2 finale. That's when Johnny and Moira, Johnny in particular though, when at first, again, when they were kind of dismissive of the town, so eager to get out, but then, as each season progresses, they're really being successful, each in their own ways. And then when they run into people from their past life, their old friends, and it's their anniversary, but then they also run into Roland and Jocelyn's, and they're all eating dinner together. And then when the couple is just making fun of the town, it's like, oh, it's Schittsville. No, it was. Then they're saying, no, it's Schitt's Creek, and that's our home. And then he's saying how you two never reached out at all when we lost all our money, but Roland and Jocelyn couldn't have been more generous. So that alone's showing the growth and how they have this appreciation, even though at first they didn't, but first they thought it was, like, they would have thought like them too, thinking, oh, this is a gross, terrible, rundown little town. But Johnny defending it, that's a great, beautiful moment. And then also the family when they're dancing, with Alexis and David when they're at that party at Mutt's barn. That's something that starts with David and Stevie both going after the same guy, the whole throuple thing, but that's another plot thread. That's so funny though. That guy Jake, goodness. But it just makes me emotional every time. The whole just sweet moment where they just say, when Moira's saying, your father and I have very strong affection for you both, and Johnny's like, Moira, and she's saying, we love you both very much. And then Alexis says, I love you too. And then David just doesn't say anything at first, and he just says, I love you too. And they're all dancing together. It's such a sweet thing. Like, oh my goodness. Because you can tell they never really, in their past life when they were rich, before everything fell apart for them, that they weren't as close as they are now. So also at episode 2, when they get to that one thing that wasn't sold, their giant painting, and then seeing how, they didn't really look happy back then, and that they weren't ever really together, and that it wasn't even really Alexis, that was just her face, just on someone else's body, and they get rid of the painting saying, it doesn't really fit anymore, like literally and figuratively, that they're not those people anymore. Then it's great too, again, seeing Stevie and Johnny when they go in business together, and then the motel, the Roses and Stevie Buds, then it becomes the Rosebud Motel. That's so great. And also seeing David and Patrick's relationship grow more and more, even though they had that rough patch when Patrick's former fiance returns trying to get him back. But then when Patrick's saying how, with her and I, it never really worked, you made me feel right. But then when he's saying he needs some time. And then there's that great episode when he and Stevie go to the spa. He and Patrick are still taking a break. And then when they're just pretending to just be newlyweds, they could just get some free stuff. And it's kind of going overboard with everyone, like at the restaurant and everything. And then it's just really sweet, though, a nice moment between them when they say, David saying, you're my best friend. And she's saying, you're my best friend. I never had a best friend before. And he's saying, I never did either. So I never really knew what that felt like. And then when he says, this would be a much sweeter moment if what we just admitted to each other wasn't so sad. Like, aw. Again, them being so similar, just a true, lovely friendship where they just get each other so well, and it's just a really sweet thing. And then I absolutely adore when David and Patrick get back together, and when David then feeling guilty with all the olive branches that Patrick had been giving him, like, it's like, that was to get you to talk to me, and then, like, it's like, now I need some space. And then when David does his olive branch, I consider this my olive branch to you. And when he just dances to Simply the Best, that's another just beautiful moment in the show, too. And he's just kind of like, you know, like he's just powering through like the embarrassment. You could see it on his face. Just great though. But like he's just enjoying it, just expressing his love for Patrick. It's just so sweet. And it's even sweeter because Patrick had serenaded him with that very song at their open mic night. You're simply the best, better than all the rest. Oh, it's so cute with his acoustic version when Patrick had sung that to David. So that's such a sweet, sweet moment. I adore that. Oh my goodness. I also love when Patrick comes out to his parents, even though Johnny had inadvertently told them before he could himself. So then it's just sweet that when he just comes out to his parents and saying he's a great partner and he's also a great life partner. We're together. And it's just, you know, how David just wants to surprise him with his parents. And then afterwards when he's saying, oh, so how long did they know David? Like, so, you know, they're not exactly great actors. I know my parents so well. So that's just a really sweet thing. And then when they're just dancing together in the cafe, that's an adorable moment too. I absolutely love that. And another really sweet moment, well, just a really sweet episode overall, the Christmas episode in season 4. And again, that's really the only one where we see them in their old life at the Christmas party. And then we just see, though, at the end how Johnny just wanted to be with the whole family, but then they just did their own things, the kids. So he just wanted the nice moment with his family. So then he finally gets that with the whole town coming together to surprise him with the nice little Christmas party. And it's so funny with the gifts that he gives them all. And she's then like, here you go, Alexis, a little something for you. And she's like, stickers of old men. He's like, no, those are stamps. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Jeez. And then with David, here you go, son, some money. He's like, looks like 1,000 yen. And well, I just have to say, with David and Alexis, I adore every single time David says, oh my God, like that exasperated, oh my God, that is like true perfection with that. And also his facial expressions, Dan Levy, it's just beautiful. I love all that. Like the sarcasm to it. His sarcasm is fantastic. And Alexis, every single time with her, ew, like, ew, David, her, ew, any reaction, like so many times she reacts with, ew, it's so hysterical, oh my gosh, or, oh my God, ew, David, it's so funny, honestly, I love all of that. Another just great thing too, like just some funny things great with the show, the fold in the cheese scene when Moira and David trying to cook family dinner. That's so funny. That's just like, what does that mean when they're trying to make some enchiladas for the family? Moira with all of her mispronunciations are hysterical. Oh my gosh, too. And honestly, Moira and Johnny, I absolutely love their relationship too. How Johnny kind of really is the straight man in this family, but the two of them are just such a great team, Moira and Johnny. So them too, they're just a fantastic couple. I also love the random thing I love too with Bob, when Johnny was trying to work out of Bob's garage, using it as his office, and then when Roland is there and he's talking, and then at one point when Bob says, oh man, to be a fly on the wall for this conversation, and then Johnny says, Bob, you're in the room. So ridiculous. And I also love when David stays over Stevie's house one night, and then when he looks in her fridge and he says, okay, I just see 2 de-shelled hard-boiled eggs in a plastic bag. Should I be scared for you? So ridiculous. Oh my gosh, they're so funny. I also love the scene when Johnny surprises Moira with the garden, and then like they go to the garden and then they're staring at this plate. It's just like so sad looking. And then Alexis reading it. It says the Moira's Roses Garden, like Moira apostrophe S, Roses apostrophe S. So like it looks like Moira has a rose who has a garden. And then they're saying how there's not even a rose in this garden. It's just so stupid. Oh my gosh. I also love when that episode when Alexis graduates high school And then David, it's his birthday, so then they give them a cake. And then David reads the cake. It says, "Happy Day, Alex and Davis." Hysterical, oh my gosh. Also, have to mention, of course, when Alexis tries out for Cabaret with her glorious song, A Little Bit Alexis. You know you love it. It's just so hilariously bad. It's just perfect, though. But what's even cooler, though, is that Annie Murphy wrote the lyrics herself. She said inspired by a whole lot of Britney. So it's just fantastic, though. It's just so funny that she just does this song. It's just so, ridiculous. Then I just absolutely love, in the final season, it's great too. We finally see the creek of Schitt's Creek, and then seeing David and Patrick planning their wedding. The proposal scene, too, is absolutely wonderful when they go on the hike, and then it kind of is going wrong. David's not really enjoying it, but then when Patrick gets injured, then they walk the rest of the way. He carries him, he sets up the picnic, and then he says, "Take out that box." He opens it, he turns around, and Patrick's on one knee. It's so emotional, and he starts crying, and Patrick's saying how, when I started developing feelings for my business partner, I would come up here. And then when he asks him to marry him, oh my God, so sweet. I also love with the Cabaret too. That's great when he does the Cabaret, Patrick, and then Stevie starring in it. And Stevie too, when she has the success with the motel, but then sadly with her love life, when that whole thing, when she dates Amir, and then she was basically wanted more, and he was saying, "Oh no, I thought this was just kind of a casual thing." So then poor Stevie. So then when that all ends, then the whole thing with the Cabaret, when she's pushing herself. So that's really great too, her being this reserved person, doesn't like attention on herself. I can relate to that. I can admit that. And when she does Cabaret, and it's so sweet too, in that episode, the season 5 finale, and then when David tells her that Patrick proposed, and she's like, "Oh my God, David, I'm so happy for you." She gives him a hug. And then when she's emotional, when Moira is talking to her, and then Stevie's saying how, "I just wish I didn't have to see all these big moments from behind the desk," always just feeling like she's stuck and everyone else is blossoming around her. And then when Moira's saying, "Oh, I have no worries about you, you're gonna go far because you just know who you are." So then when Stevie sings and just really puts her all into it, really putting everything she has into that performance, and you really feel it. You really feel her just kind of breaking through. And then David being so proud. He's the first one out of his seat, just cheering her on, clapping, and everyone giving her a standing ovation. And he's just saying, "That's my friend." And it's just so cute. I love that. And then in the final season, when they franchise the motel, that's so great. They get that success, and they're going to be moving on now, that their time in Schitt's Creek coming to an end. And then Moira too, when she gets the deal to reboot Sunrise Bay, and Alexis, when she tells her it's perfectly okay to ask for what you deserve. So her being just this great support system from Moira, being her publicist too. So really just seeing all that growth. Because then also sadly when Alexis and Ted break up, I get so emotional watching that too. It's just so, again, beautifully acted. You feel the emotion that they're not breaking up because they don't love each other. They absolutely love each other so much. And that is the reason they are, because they can't give up their success and their careers. They love each other so much that they have to let each other go, because Ted going back to the Galapagos now, permanently on the team, and Alexis just branching out with her career in PR and just seeing where that takes her. So then when she's saying, "I'd like to think that we've helped each other get here," and then she just says, "I love you, Ted," and he says, "I love you too," and they just raise their glasses to us. It's just so touching, because again, it just shows all the growth that they had, that knowing each other, they grew stronger as a couple, they grew stronger individually, and that unfortunately, due to the circumstances, they couldn't stay together. But it's just, again, I adored that. That's a beautiful scene, made me cry. It's beautiful. Also, just with David, when he decides, then when Alexis is going to go to New York, fly to New York solo, so really just going to make it on her own, and when David's going to go to New York too, but then it turns out then the parents are going to be going to California because Moira's going to be shooting Sunrise Bay. And then Stevie's saying, "David, why do you have to go to New York?" And he's saying, "Well, then, because I want them to know that I'm not a joke. I want them to know that I won." And then she's saying, "Look at this house, you won, and I don't want you to leave me here." And then they hug, and it's just, so sweet when he decides he's going to stay. He's not done with this place, that his husband-to-be is here, and his best friend, and that he's not done with this place. So then with all them going their separate ways, though, that the last thing before they all leave with David and Patrick's wedding, I also love, too, with Twyla and Alexis, how throughout the show, Alexis kind of always thinking, like, oh, hey, Twy, and, like, it's like, oh, maybe we'll do a swap, like, with their jewelry, like, just, she was always kind of using Twyla whenever she needed her. It's like, oh, hey, Twy, or whatever, like, when she, like, it's like, oh, let's go out, then she was on the rebound, they went out to the bar, like, things like that. Then when she realizes that she is her true friend, and then she was going to give her all these clothes, but then Twyla's saying that she had actually won all this money in the lottery, and then she's saying, well, money, it doesn't necessarily buy you happiness, but every once in a while buy something for yourself that can make you smile. So then when Twyla buys the cafe, and then she's saying, just come visit me someday, like, it's so cute. Their friendship is just a really sweet thing, how that became like a genuine thing. And even Ronnie too, and then she got teary-eyed finding out Moira's leaving, like, oh, thanks for the heads up, so even her as well. And Jocelyn too, I didn't even mention with Jocelyn and Roland's, when the whole arc, then when they find out that they're having another baby. And I love that scene when she tells Roland, it's like, oh, Rolly, I'm pregnant. And then he's like, oh, champagne for everyone. It's like, Rolly, I can't drink. What? Oh, right, you're driving. So funny, oh my goodness. But then Roland's too, how he becomes another partner in the Rosebud Motel franchise now. And he's the one really that sticks up for Johnny when they're kind of making fun of him afterwards, saying, it took a lot for him to come back here. So he really is a true friend as well. Again, I also love Ray. Like, it's so funny when he's like, I was told to capture the day. And then also when they went to Ray to take pictures for their wedding, like their engagement photos, Patrick and David. And when he's saying, oh, if you want to put your pictures on a mouse pad, it's like, oh, here's the underwater theme, here's the volcano theme. And then when he's showing Patrick and David the apartment that Patrick eventually buys, and it's so funny. It's like, oh, with the door. Well, first one, Patrick had been living with Ray, and then he's like, oh, door open or closed? Like, he's just always in a good mood, Ray. He's so funny. Just so many great moments throughout the whole show. Like, and then when that woman mistakes Roland Jr. for David's son, and then when Roland comes back to, oh yeah, here's my guy, I know him really well. He once took me shopping, like helped me pick out a blouse. This is so funny. And all those facial expressions David makes throughout that scene in particular, it's hysterical. So many beautiful, it's such a joy to watch this show. Again, truly the epitome of love in all its forms, and of joy, and of true human kindness. Since, again, in this town, no bigotry, no sexism, racism, homophobia, anything like that. And with David and Patrick, how it's just their love just grows organically, and it's just, they're such a sweet couple, and how they make small sacrifices for each other, like David when he goes to, really, that whole episode with the baseball game, it's just so cute, they end up winning, it's just a sweet thing. And all of the sweet things Patrick does for David, even on their actual wedding day in the series finale, happy ending, which, as we know, has the two meanings to it. Patrick, he's just such a sweetheart. They're such a wonderful couple. Him and Patrick, and then also Moira and Johnny. And Moira, with all of her fantastic outfits, again, just so many, shiny outfits of hers, but obviously nothing beats the finale when she is officiating the wedding and she's dressed like the Pope. That was just so fantastic. Oh my god, that was just so perfect with the hair, and it's just fantastic. But I just love all the little moments too, just Alexis and Moira, with Alexis saying how we're not gonna be here together anymore. It's not, I can't just walk into your room and just talk to you. It's gonna be different now since we're moving to new places. Then she just gives her a hug, and that's why I just love her growth. And the growth just feels so genuine and believable, all the character growth. So it just really is, again, the marks of strong, character-driven writing. And then when she comes out wearing a wedding dress, it's it looks like you're wearing a wedding dress. It looks like we're going to be standing next to each other, and you and I are getting married, because she giving him away. And I love that when he asks her, I've been thinking about it, I want you to give me away. That's such a sweet thing too. So when Alexis gives him away at the wedding, and I love before then when she's saying, it's David, I realize this looks like a wedding dress, and he's I'm aware. And she's saying, I just wanted to impress you. And then he says, for what it's worth, I'm continuously impressed by you. And then she says, I love you. And then she does her little boop. And when she taps someone on the nose, like her little like sign of affection. She's done that to Twyla. She's done that to Ted. Just her little sign of like boop. It's just so sweet. And the actual wedding, so sweet with the Jazzigal singing Simply the Best. And with their vows, forget it. When Patrick starts singing Mariah Carey, oh, that was so beautiful. Like, David, you will always be a part of me. And I'm part of you indefinitely. Because it's a beautiful callback. Instead of saying, you are my Mariah Carey, that instead of saying that again, instead of just singing to him, oh, it's so sweet, singing him a Mariah Carey song. So I just love their vows. David saying how I never knew love before I met you. I also love, too, the fact that Stevie was the maid of honor. The whole thing is just beautiful. Again, with the whole town coming together, and it's just the last-minute venue change since the whole day was raining. And then the next day when Moira and Johnny are off to California, and they say goodbye. And it's so sweet, too, when Johnny says, goodbye, partner, when he hugs Stevie. And he says, when you get the chance, room 7 needs a turn down, gives her back the key for their room from these past few years. And Emily Hampshire, she still has that key, she said, like I saw that on Instagram. So then when they just say their goodbyes, they're all hugging. You just feel all the warmth and the love. It just, this family, this Rose family, seeing how much they grew from being in Schitt's Creek. So Alexis flying solo to New York, David and Patrick starting their married life together in their new home in Schitt's Creek, and Moira doing the Sunrise Bay reboot, Johnny with the motel franchise with Stevie. So Stevie really having all that success. And that last shot in the show, like I just wanted one last look. Okay, driver, we're ready. And then you see the updated sign, welcome to Schitt's Creek, where everyone fits in. And you see the Rose family, David and Alexis in the background, Moira and Johnny. It's just beautiful. Oh my goodness. So this show, again, it's such an absolute joy, start to finish. I adore these characters. I adore the relationships. Truly a wonderful show. I can't praise it enough. Props to Dan Levy with the character growth, just with this phenomenal writing, and he is now going to be working with ABC, developing shows for them, so I look forward to his next show. I know Annie Murphy is going to be starring in a new show as well, so I look forward to checking that out too. And Dan Levy has said that he's open to the idea of one day reuniting that, maybe several years down the line, for just another special, like kind of checking in on these characters, seeing where they are a few years from now. So that'd be awesome to see. So holding out hope for that someday we'll see these characters again. So again, I just absolutely adore this show, and you're simply the best. And with that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Storytelling Saga, as well as on Twitter at Storytell Saga. You can also send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by leaving me a message in the contact section of storytellingsaga.com, or by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week, people are singing to me. I will be discussing Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.
Are you ready? Let's do it. I'm a Lamborghini. I'm a Hollywood star. I'm a little bit tipsy when I drive my car. I'm expensive sushi. I'm a cute, huge yacht. I'm a little bit single, even when I'm not. I'm a little bit of la, 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 la. A little bit of Alexis. La, 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 la.